Okay, guys, so big welcome today to Andrea. She is the voice behind Give Credit, who are a fantastic force in the fashion industry, who bring the fashion industry to task. They are asking simply, it's simple, but it's not as easy as it sounds, for people to give credit back to the cultural heritage where they, borrow or take from even sort of prints and even just thought processes or even just cultural heritage that comes from somewhere other than what these fashion brands are actually giving credit to. So Andrea has a fantastic perspective on this, and her passion for her projects definitely is catching and inspiring. And we were very lucky year 2 to have Andrea in November last year to talk to the year 2 students in forecasting and talk about how to actually give credit and make sure that you aren't culturally appropriating when you're working. So I'm going to hand over now to Andrea. If you have any questions following on from this webinar, please do contact me or post it straight to the ucabschool on Instagram, and we can put them forward to Andrea, and I'm sure she can answer them after the webinar as well. So what we'll do is we'll hand over to Andrea, and she will talk you through who Give Credit are and what they do and all that fantastic work that they've been doing, and then at the end we might be doing a little bit more of a live discussion as well. Okay, so over to you.
Thank you very much, Fran, for your lovely introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you again. I really miss the campus and the university. We had a very, very good session last year, and hopefully we're going to see each other more from now on. So I will start my presentation today with some beautiful slideshows about our project, about Give Credit and how it started, and what are our aims, our objective, and how can this project can contribute to a better and sustainable fashion world, meanwhile preserving cultural heritage and taking those traditional knowledge to the next generation. So I will start with our presentation. Just a second to stop the videos. Good. Here we are. Will Give Credit. So it's simple, yes, it sounds simple, it's a hashtag. We ask the members of the fashion and design industry to give credit to the cultural creative communities they draw inspiration from. How it started? In 2011, I was actually in London, and while having this, I think it was a US Vogue magazine in 2011, yes. And had a beautiful cover with Adele, and with the editorial, the fashion editorial, with Adele again dressed in this blouse by Tom Ford. I was a little bit shocked because I grew up in Transylvania, in the countryside, and this blouse actually was very similar to my grandmother's blouse. I had the chance to sew it. So I thought in the beginning that it was a collaboration between Tom Ford and Romanian artisans. I checked the label. It was Tom Ford, made in Italy. So no Romanian blouse, nothing. Usually the Romanian blouse is made by cotton, by hemp, by different other fabrics, not viscose. So I started to research and to find the exactly blouse that was presented in this fashion editorial. So here is a picture from Transylvania in the 60s with two girls. With one of them, she's wearing a blouse almost 100% similar with Tom Ford's contemporary design. The price of Tom Ford was 5,000 US dollars. Usually a Romanian blouse is between, I don't know, 200, maximum, let's say, $500. So in this way, I started my own gift credit campaign. It was 2012. So my tool was Facebook, and I created this community called La Blouse Roumaine, inspired from the paintings of Henri Matisse. You have it visible in this thumbnail. This is Henri Matisse. La Blouse Roumaine is a very famous painting of the modern art. I started this community in 2012, asking people to wear the Romanian blouses, to change the profile pictures with Romanian blouses, and eventually we created the Romanian Blouse Day, which takes place in the midsummer on 24th of June. It was the first edition. All our social media networks and connections were full of Romanian blouse on this day. And then it was very easy for the Google to connect the Tom Ford and Adele and the Romanian blouse in the same, under the same search. So this was our first campaign, our first guerrilla marketing campaign to connect the origins with the new cultural design product. And now, if you are searching for the vintage market, you can find the Tom Ford product as a Romanian blouse. But of course, the inspiration is not new. It comes from the 70s, when Romania has a very strong presence on the international market. We were the first, on the top of the artisanal market in Europe in the 70s and in the 80s, and then India replaced our dominance, let's say, in the artisanal market. Of course, there are a lot of blouses in the museums of the world. Here we have a Romanian textile museum where Dr. Florica Zaharia, which is a conservator emerita at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, she is researching all these blouses now in a very beautiful museum in Transylvania. But the campaign, actually, the gift credit campaign started in 2017 with Tory Burch. Tory Burch is a very famous American brand. Is giant, as you can see. And in 2015, we published on our community, on La Blouse Roumaine, this image with this outfit signed by Tory Burch. In fact, it was a copy of a Romanian blouse traditional costume from Bukovina, from northern Romania. But it was very interesting that Tory Burch in that period just got like 41 million US dollars in damages after winning a trademark infringement. So, what was next? In 2012, we published this beautiful coach from the Metropolitan Museum of Art on our Facebook page, on La Blouse Roumaine, promoting our cultural heritage. This code is actually a kind of cultural fashion from the interwar period. In the middle here we have an image from a French fashion magazine from 1926. And here is an image with a Romanian princess. Is one of the child of the Romanian royal family from that period. And of course, in 2012, 2013, these traditional codes were used only by folk singers in Romania. They were out of the fashion. And in 2015, after our movement grew around the Romanian blouse, one Romanian little creative studio, had a partnership with artisans from Oltenia, from where is the place of this coat. and they recreate that coat identically with the image from the Metropolitan Museum. And in 2017, the research team of Tory Burch, they came on our Facebook page and they discovered this beautiful coat with many likes, because we had many likes every time we publish on our pages, and they made an exactly replica. And they present it as a African design inspiration. So I made my research also. Sometimes in Northern Africa, in Morocco, maybe in Tunis, there are some slightly similar patterns, but not like this. As you can see, is a copy, is 100% copy, and more than this code, the research team they had long hours on our Facebook page, because, for example, this is the Romanian rugby T-shirt for the World Championship. So it was inspired by the Romanian traditional folk art. As you can see, they took also the models, and how they position in terms of design is a copy. I like the collection. No offense. So it was beautiful, but unfortunately, with no credit, with this blatant copy, of course, inspire us to take a very quick decision to write a letter to Tory Burch. We published the letter on June 2017, and we asked Tory Burch to give credit to the Romanian communities, the Romanian artisans, and more than this, to support the local artisan and women entrepreneurs, because we discovered that Tory Burch had a beautiful campaign to empower women who are aiming to have an entrepreneurial career. So in like 2 days, the social media, also Instagram, also Facebook, also Twitter, were full of this image of the copy of the of our Facebook mix. So people were angry, and not only Romania. People from around the world, they come and support our campaign. So I call it cultural fashion activism. And also the Romanians, they were very creative. They were very funny. They start to take selfies in front of Tory Burch shops from around the world. Here is the Tory Burch shop from Washington. Here is one of our friends in front of her grandmother's house wearing the same coats. And what happened, because it was 10th of June, this is 13th of June 2017, our campaign was in New York Times. I think this was a big success for a community based only on social media, with no budgets, with no marketing campaigns, with nothing, just with an immense solidarity between people. So the international press was very interested in this story. So it led to a change in the Facebook and in the social media of Tory Burch. They tried for the first time. They tried to erase comments, but it was impossible to erase thousands of comments in terms of hours. So in the end, they took the pictures off, and finally they changed all the description of the collection, seen as a honor of the traditional Romanian needlework. Of course, they continue to be inspired by this pattern and by this design. but now they are recognizing the origins, but no compensation was given. Eventually, Give Credit campaign became an iconic, an inspiration, an iconic movement. Artists were inspired by the story. Students inspired to create and to promote the campaign in their universities, and also artisans. Artisan is the star because now they are selling more coats. So this is one of the positive sides of this campaign. But it was very funny when I had this picture with this artisan from Albania. He said to me, "No, no, don't publish my designs on Facebook because Tory Burch, we're gonna copy that." It was really funny. But authenticity feels good. It connects with us in such a deep level. Right after this campaign, we start with a new one, with Dior pre-fall collection 2017. This was Maria Grazia Chiuri's first collection as a creative director of Christian Dior. We published the collection in the beginning of the year, in January, but no one had the courage to comment on the similarities between Dior and another, beautiful part of Romania, or rather, Bihor. The name is very similar. And suddenly, someone, one of our friends from Bali, is a Romanian living in Bali. During his trip to Singapore, he saw his coat. He's a Romanian ship coat in the collection of Dior. So look the similarities. He was shocked because it was clearly the same coat, the same vest that he has inherited from his ancestors. So also we had a similar campaign because it was a few days after the Tory Burch movement. And this campaign also had an immense reach on social media, and it was an inspiration base for a Romanian advertising agency. They created actually a campaign around it. We're going to see it later. But in the Dior collection, it was not only Bihor, but also another region called Bukovina. It's the northern part of Romania. So we made the same. We wrote a letter to Maria Grazia Chiuri this time, asking them to give credit to the Romanian heritage communities. Of course, pictures were coming from different folk groups around Bihor. It was so funny because Bihor and Dior, they were so similar. And we call it beyond haute couture because this campaign was the aim was to correct the omission, because the Romanian artisan had from generation to generation creating and passed on these authentic collective works of art, Through these creations, they have communicating their identity, their story, and their vision of the world for centuries. So it's not even fair. It's just, a sacrilege. It's like, I don't know, like a theft of the identity. It's like someone is changing your Facebook page, is taking your pictures, your identity, and replace it with something else. But it's a long story. It's not from 2017. It comes from 2015 when Maria Grazia Chiuri was the creative director of Valentino. So her love story with the Romanian coats and vests is not new. So we did this research, and eventually it became, a kind of recurrent theme in the fashion blogging and vlogging. People from around the world now connect Dior sometimes with these little villages from Romania. Then is kind of interesting because they promoted not only the codes but also the cultural tourism and so many other values from this part of the world. Also, the campaign it was a subject of artistic inspiration. Here is a performance art from Mircea Cantor. He's a very famous Romanian performance artist living in Paris, and he connected Dior. This is the replica of Dior with an original from Bihor, and he called it Dior Bihor because he thinks that somehow we have to make peace with Dior to connect with them on a different cultural connections, you know. But for us, it's still a question mark of ethics in the fashion world. So, Bihor Couture campaign was launched, promoted by a Romanian magazine and these Romanian advertising agencies, and they created a kind of shop for the artisan to sell their clothes. And their campaign with 3 beautiful and funny videos eventually become viral from all over the world in 2018, and it has won many awards at Cannes advertising um, festival. The campaign moved from Romania to other countries with similar problems. So it's not about Romania anymore right now. It's about the whole world. And many of the indigenous communities, many of the Aboriginal communities are suffer, you know, from this cultural appropriation practice. And here is Abel Marant and indigenous communities from Mexico. Here is Donna Brownhall from Hot Culture Textile Tours, promoting her cultural fashion activist campaign through her textile tours in Mexico. Also, Carolina Herrera was a subject of discussion in Mexico too, and eventually, also with our help, this campaign, it was from 2019, lead to a new law in Mexico. So things are improving in the affected communities. So, for example, autonomy embroidery artisans now are protected by the law. This happened in 2019, so very quick. Again, another case. So you see the similarities between Aka tribe and Valentino. This was a collection from 2019 too. And an older case with the Maasai tribe and Louis Vuitton. But the Maasai tribe, they have changed the situation because they created a Maasai intellectual property initiative, and they start fighting with these big fashion brands to protect their name and their cultural heritage. So now, if you want to copy and to be inspired by the Maasai culture, you need to ask for the permission. Also, the case of Lao and Ecuador communities, also the Inuit garment copied by KTS brand, Max Mara with Oma tribe from Laos, our little victory in 2018 when we presented our campaign to the Ethnology Fest in Belgrade in Serbia. So this is how the Give Credit Instagram and cultural fashion activist movement was born. You can follow us from Give Credit with underline. But what does give credit mean? It means to respect the origins and give credit to the original source of cultural inspiration. Second, and very important, to compensate cultural artisan communities for using their cultural design expressions. And we have a positive example here. It is a Brazilian designer, Oscar Meshavat, who starting a collection to get in partnership with a tribe, with Amazonian indigenous tribe, in 2015. They did an amazing work. They signed a contract with the tribe in which they receive a set amount of money stipulated by the tribe because they prefer this way. So Ashani were able to plan in advance the investment to make this with these funds. Yes. So the story was very, very interesting because the tribe managed to build a school, and also the designer helped them making a documentary about their fight for saving the Amazon forests. So this is the collection of Osclan, how it's called, the brand of the Brazilian designer. Beautiful, but also presented with pictures and very, beautiful documentation from the tribes. So here you have the red from the Amazonian tribe, and you have everywhere the pictures side by side in promoting this collection. So that's why we believe that the fashion and design industry can create better practices to collaborate with cultural community artisans from around the world. The like-for-like copying of cultural communities' expression in design is no longer a debate. Times have changed. Just because the design industry has benefited from the extracting and exploiting visual culture's expression from its benefit in the past does not mean it has ever been okay to do so. So, trend forecaster, designers, merchandiser, producers, and marketers need to be brought up to date with cultural responsibility, sustainability, and benefit-sharing business models, as it is now easier than ever for brands to collaborate, celebrate, and give credit to the creative cultural communities they admire so much, both in name and financial compensation. Our aims are simple: to provide an online platform for affected artisans and cultural communities to have their plagiarism and cultural appropriation campaigns promoted, to share the latest news and articles on the related subjects, to provide education, resources, and case studies on better practices, to connect the industry with experts that can provide consultancy, services, and training on cultural sustainability. And why it's important? Because it acknowledges and respects the artistic contribution of already marginalized groups in human history, and it helps the artisan continue their cultural expression, their tradition, which also will lead to a better and healthier, happy world. So, stealing cultural community designs at any level, but especially at the luxury level, where they have the budget to collaborate and to be role models in the industry, is not only immoral, but ultimately destroying cultural heritage design practices around the world. So we ask them to give credit because we believe strongly that fashion can change the world. So at the end of my presentation, I think that together we can do more, and this is our, let's say, hope for the future. Romanian artisans together with models on the catwalk in Philippe Gillier Prejudice collection from 2011. So this is how we envision the future for a better and more culturally sustainable world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. It was amazing. It was lovely to actually relive it because I obviously saw this in November with the year 2, but the length of time that you've been working on this, and also, you know, a lot of what you've done is really brave as well, because people, like you say, people don't want to talk, take on these luxury brands, but
yes,
you've opened the door now for people to really take people to account, and that's definitely something that the students that watch this, when you see that, and we've got global students, so the great thing is they can now be the eyes and ears of their culture. So students, when you do see your culture being used and not necessarily given credit, or even like exactly what Andrea is saying, it's not just giving the credit, it's actually supporting the artisans that actually created that in the first place. Call them out, talk to that brand, and half the time the people that work in the brand aren't, they're not even aware of the full process of what's happened there. Someone's just taken it from the internet and they have no idea what the significance of some of this is. So, I mean, what we'll do now is we'll probably just go into a little bit of a discussion, if that's okay, Andrea, because I was quite curious about that aspect as well, because in terms of where it started with the blouse Romaine,
yes,
we'd spoken about it before, but I think it's really useful for people watching this back is to talk about the significance and the history and the storytelling that goes into those blouses, because all of that gets lost when it's taken and when it's robbed by a designer that has no care or understanding for those stories. So I'd love to hear,
yes,
some stories.
It's very personal to me because I grew up in Transylvania, in a little village where my grandmother was born. So my grandmother used to make handmade for herself, these blouses. For example, the first blouse was made for the moment when you come out in the village to dance. We have this circle dance. So in this kind of solar ritual dance, the girl is a kind of rite of passage. The girl is announcing the community that she's ready to be a wife. She is searching for the future husband, So it's kind of funny because when the moment when they saw the blouses, they put all these sacred symbols for good luck, for fertility, for protection also, But more than this, a blouse in Romania has many connection with how we see life, how we envision this world. For example, we have here the upper part of the blouse, yes?
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you on the Adele's blouse. Here, the upper part is called altizza. From alto is from the highest part of shoulders, highest part of the blouse. And is the connection with the spirituality, with the divinity, and also with the afterwards. Because when you die, when you are very old, is accustomed to take over this part and send it, on the roof for the soul to connect, to reconnect with the family in his new life. It's very interesting, yes?
Yeah.
So it has a very deep spiritual significance, this part of the blouse. And sometimes, for example, if you have 4 lines, it's like you have 4 stages of development of the soul, for example. But from this beautiful and sacred part of the blouse, we have the lines. You see the lines? They are called rivers because it looks like the world is coming from the sky. But this blouse, for example, they took a very important part of the blouse, of the original blouse. You'll see it here. This part is not even not anymore on the Tom Ford, because this is the earth and this is the land, the earth. So from the earth, the rivers and the flowers are starting to grow up. See? So in the blouse of Tom Ford, we don't have anymore the earth. We have just the sky and the rivers.
So that they've rewritten the story.
Yes.
It doesn't make.
I don't know how we can survive without the earth. Anyway.
Yes. Well, I think the thing is that's a fantastic metaphor in a way for what maybe is the core issue in this is the disregard for the earth. You know, the fact that these designers and fashion forecasters are having to work so fast in our fast fashion industries nowadays that they don't have the time to create their own ideas, and they are stealing. Well, I know inspired is a word that we need to dig into a little bit or borrow, but we need, really it's stealing from these cultural heritages, and the main thing is that's the complete disregard for the earth. It's this constant speed that is driving this theft. It's driving this constant need to be inspired, because designers that work for brands nowadays do not get the time they need to create from their own inspiration, to be unique. And I definitely find there's a big link there with the earth is missing for sure.
Yes. Because this is the problem. How we treat the earth, how we treat the Mother Earth, is a mirror of how the fashion world works right now. So through our common efforts, maybe we're gonna change this in this century.
Yes.
Yes. So the motifs, for example, here, of course, you can see there is an adaptation. I want to see if we can. Yes, we can have all these traditional motifs here. They're very, very old in our culture. Sometimes, you can trace them to, I don't know, to the thousands of years ago. For example, the first symbol or like this was discovered in Romania in 70s, and it was 11,000 years old.
Wow.
So imagine, how much heritage you just, erase.
Yeah.
Only because it looks to you beautiful and pretty and aesthetically, correct. So for example, each each village has its own design, as you can see here in the picture. Each village has its own design, and each woman and each girl has its own design. So it's an amazing, diversity, but this diversity is in a kind of similar pattern. A village has a similar identity, also a region, also a country, and also sometimes because folklore doesn't have borders, so we can find similar blouses in Ukraine, in Bulgaria, in all Eastern Europe. But if you go with a little research, you will discover an amazing world, because every blouse is different, is unique, as we are as human beings. So it's a mirror of our DNA in the blouse.
Exactly, it's like a fingerprint, isn't it? It's your family tree in a way.
Yes, because as you can see in the back of me, here is a different blouse. It's only with rivers and flowers.
Oh yeah.
But, but you can recognize that it's from a specific village in south of Romania. And for example, I'm going to have another example. In the Second World War, the Romanian soldiers, they were having these Romanian traditional shirts, because they thought first that the shirts, they're going to protect the symbols, they're going to protect them in the war. And second, if they're going to die, they will be recognized from the motif of the shirt and buried in their homeland.
sort of like an ID tag. It's an identity.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I see how that would work. And this is the thing is exactly what you're saying. These thousands of years and the storytelling and what it means doesn't get carried or doesn't get acknowledged when it's abused like that. I was really interested in what you said about the not having borders, and I know from the work that we've been doing together that is one of the issues with protection. You know, how do we protect against this problem? What is it that we can do? Because I think at the moment there's not international understanding of what's right and what's wrong with this, and you can't hold brands account. Apart from the fantastic way that you've been doing it is by using the voice of the people to put pressure on the brand. But legally, because of the borderless aspect of cultural intellectual property, it's really very difficult to enforce anything, I suppose.
I think one of the solutions are the international treaties, and also the cooperation between countries from the same region. Because through this cooperation, we can protect, for example, Romanian blouses in Bulgaria and in Ukraine, and also the Bulgarian blouses in Romania, for example. And through this, we can create a setup of regulation where the community is in the center of our actions, because I think the community is the only one who can decide what is wrong and what is not wrong. From the moment I'm part of this community, from my heritage line, but also I'm not living into that community. I'm not even living into the countryside. So that's why this year I started another project to reconnect with the community and to have an understanding, a dialogue with each community. For example, if they decide to throw this away, and they decide that they don't want to have history, is their, aim, is their decision. But of course, it's not the case. But we want to empower these communities to be more aware about the value of their cultural heritage. Because what happened in the last 100 years is that many of these communities, they forgot their value, their culture, because everything was from the industrial era was the same. Everything was driven, by the Western world fashion. So in this way, we lost a lot of knowledge. And it's not about only the Western world. It was how all this industrial era changed our, connection with textile, with culture, with everything. But now, because we are in the knowledge era, we should come with new approach, with a lot of collaboration, with workshops, with dialogue, with local solutions and global international treaties to protect this knowledge and to pass it to the next generation, because this knowledge actually is about survival. It's about how we can survive in harmony with nature, with divinity, with everything what is around us.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think exactly what you tapped into there is the people forgetting about the value of their craftsmanship and the value of that artisanal work. And I think that's why particularly it's an issue with the luxury industry, is because the luxury industry have taken craft as their thing. And that has now meant that the desire is back for interesting, unique items that feel like they've got a story and feel unique. But it's the fact that the exact story that they're using to sell these items, the fact that they feel like they're folkloric, they feel that they have an ethnicity to it, is what they're using to sell it. But they're not even translating that over at all. So I think, definitely what you're saying about the collaborations and the year of knowledge and, working we're doing on a project coming up as well, which is exciting. So, trying to bring all this to light and putting something in place so that there's something to be accountable for as well.
Yes, exactly, and to also infuse creativity in the communities, and also to have the professionals in the creative industry to understand better these worlds, and to extract the value of it, and send it to the next generation, also through the digital manipulation and so on, because as our ancestors, we are tool builders. So I think that of course we can send a message to textiles, but also we can send a message to print, to holograms, and so with so many other mediums. So it's a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
If the luxury and the fashion industry and the design industry will have this bridge, they're gonna build this bridge with the artisan and cultural heritage communities, everyone will win.
Yeah, and it'll be great to see young people in those communities inspired to learn the craft, and not let it die out with the last generation that were making it. Putting back money into those young people and feel like there's a future in it and feel like it's worthwhile doing. So there's definitely something, when you were talking about the Dior Bihor connection there, of being like, if we can make that work, if we can shine a light on the greatness of artisan and the greatness of craft, then we can make sure that survives in those communities and gets passed down to the younger people and they don't forget it.
Definitely, and I can't wait to start our project together this autumn, because I think that the journey will be amazing, and at the end we're gonna have probably a new proposal for the fashion and creative industries to change, this behavior, and to make the world a better place.
Yes, and you've heard it here first, guys. So myself and Andrea and our beautiful team that are working on Give Back Credit, and we are going to be starting work on this in the autumn, so watch this space. We will be coming to a lecture theatre near you, and we are very looking forward to releasing more information about that as and when we know it. So do look out for that, and we'll be putting it out on our social medias as well. So wrapping up our wonderful, wonderful talk with Andrea today. And if you haven't already, do follow Le Blaus Remain and also Give Credit on Instagram. And if you have any questions, like I said at the beginning, just post them. You can post them directly, obviously, to Andrea via her social medias, or also you can add to the UCAB school and we will pass them on. We want to get this conversation up and alive all the time. So thank you very much if you have joined us, and thank you massively to Andrea. You've been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fanny. Always a pleasure to connect with you guys.
Oh, thank you.